Terry McLaurin has been activated from the PUP list, but he wasn't at practice on Saturday. It's a step forward, but the story is, as always, just a little bit more complicated. That and more right now on Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Commanders. I'm David Harrison, your guy on the ground covering the Washington Commanders for WUSA 9. Also right here for you 5 days a week. And you can also find me writing about the Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. And you can follow me on X at DHarrison82. Thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen or your first view today. And a special thank you goes out to all the everydayers who come through for every single episode, including 2 bonus episodes this week. Got a bonus episode yesterday. We got a bonus episode today. So thank you to everybody who's already come through. If you haven't already, please subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you're listening to today's episode. If it's your first time here, I'm glad you found it. Hopefully you enjoy it and you come back again real soon for more. Coming up on today's episode, safety Will Harris comes through. But first, we got to talk about Terry, and all of that is coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Terry McLaurin activated from the physically unable to perform list on Saturday morning, just ahead of practice. In fact, I was actually already standing on the practice field, watching guys getting loose, doing some special teams, early special teams work, things like that, when the news broke. I think it was Ethan from Monumental Sports who was next to me and said, like, oh, Terry's off the PUP. And so pulled up my phone, confirmed with the team, did my job, all that kind of stuff. And of course, from that moment on, everybody's just waiting to see, is number 17 going to be back on the practice field? Unfortunately, he was not back on the practice field, which could mean something, could not mean something. We'll get into what it could mean. But what we do know that it means, according to head coach Dan Quinn, is that it's quote unquote good news. And it's the beginning of the quote unquote return to play process for Terry McLaurin. And of course, Dan Quinn taking the same approach to this injury as he has with literally every single other injury we've heard him talk about and seen this team deal with since he came in to the organization last year, and really wanted to specify, and even said in the answer during the press conference after practice, that this will help your readers. Obviously, you're not reading this, but listeners count as readers and consumers of media, right? To understand that being on the PUP, being on the physically unable to perform list, you're basically focusing on rehab. Coming off of the PUP, you may not be exactly on the practice field, but you're basically working now from, instead of rehabbing, you're doing things that are going to help you return to the field. So think about therapy to ramping up football activities is essentially probably the best way to kind of consider. It doesn't mean that he's back at practice, but it does mean that he's taking those, quote, steps that are going forward, end quote, according to, again, Dan Quinn. So that Terry McLaurin has been going through some walkthroughs. Brandon Coleman has also been going through some walkthroughs, according to DQ, and kind of getting through those things, but going at a different pace now than he was before. And I think it's really kind of a reminder too, and sometimes those of us in the media need to remember this as well. But there are things that they do that we don't get to see. And we all know classroom, meeting rooms, right? We don't get to go into those things, but there's on-field things that they do as well, walkthroughs and all these types of things. And once we get to the regular season, there's even more that they're doing that we don't get to see. I know some media members get surprised, early on in their experience when they first realize the practice portion that we get to see is not even the first physical thing they've done that day. Like, it's a lot of times it's the second or even third physical thing they've done on a football field that day. We just happen to get to see it. And we just, it's confirmation bias, right? We just think that what we see is all there is. So it's just an important thing to remember there too. Now, the elephant in the room and the nagging thing that's at the back of everybody's mind, is this a negotiating tactic? Is this a positioning tactic by Adam Peters and the Washington Commanders front office to put more pressure on Terry McLaurin? Obviously, this situation has been handled in the court of public opinion on several different occasions. Terry McLaurin himself holding a little impromptu media scrum during a commercial shoot for a local car dealership. That was kind of the first bit of public knowledge or public execution of the negotiations, which again, I said back then, I agree with it now. Handling contract negotiations like this in the public forum, probably not ever a smart idea. And then, of course, you have Terry holding out at the beginning of training camp, holding out from the mandatory mini camp, and you have him then showing up to the field after practice. Once he did reports, and officially it's not a hold-in because he's on the PUP list, so he can't practice. But, showing up, sign autographs for fans, which is great. And then, kind of walking around the practice field with his agent, one day walking around the practice field with his wife, just kind of, interestingly choosing times to be seen in front of people. And, just so a lot of public moves, a lot of strategy kind of going into a lot of these things that just kind of show you maybe some of the uglier sides of the business side of the National Football League. So could this be a strategic move by the team to apply pressure? How would that work? If you're sitting there and saying, what does this do to apply pressure to Terry McLaurin? Well, what this does is the team is basically telling you his ankle is now fine. Like, he's been cleared medically to return to football activities. So as we go through this, right, Saturday, he gets cleared, not practicing. Okay, fine. The ankle can still be a little owie and all that stuff. And obviously, look, some people don't believe there's anything wrong with his ankle anyway. And this is all about the contract. And it's really a hold in being disguised as a pup list. I got it. We have no proof of it, but I got it. I understand where you're coming from. However, bottom line is, as of Saturday morning, the team is now saying his ankle is fine. Physically, he is fine. Now, you don't want to just go boom right back to 100 degrees or 100% full speed, all that stuff, because that's how you get, further injuries. So a ramp up is expected. But how long is that ramp up going to go? I can already see insiders next Wednesday. Is he not at practice, even doing a little light jogging on the sideline, taking some routes, maybe participating in individuals? Next Thursday, is he not at practice? Okay. Maybe the team can get away with saying, we've got the preseason thing coming. We're just going to kind of let him rest a little bit, and we're not going to rush it too much. And then the week of week one comes, and that's really where this thing is going to meet the road. If there's not a contract done and all these things, is Terry McLaurin out there for that first Wednesday practice of week one ahead of the Giants game, or is he still not being seen? Because if he's still not being seen, it's going to be a little bit hard to swallow and harder for people in the public, whether it be media or fans, to believe that Terry McLaurin is still just getting ramped up after coming off of the physically unable to perform list that long. So it's one of those things. Could it be a tactic and them and the team kind of saying, listen, Terry, we've dealt with this. We've talked about this. We've tried to work with you to the best extent we have. We've kept things out of the public view from our perspective as much as we can. The deal on the table is the deal on the table. It's up to you now. You're either going to play or you're not going to play. But whatever decision you make, you're going to make it, and you're going to make it publicly. Because obviously, if he starts holding out of practices, then the fines begin again, and it just kind of becomes known that no, Terry McLaurin is in fact refusing to perform and refusing to do the job, which frankly he's currently under contract to do as of right now. Anyway, so is it a tactic? I can't tell you 100% that it is. I understand why people might think that it is. I understand why it could be. Certainly, it would be a potentially effective tactic, but we'll have to see just how these things happen. Obviously, Terry McLaurin is not going to play Monday. Dan Quinn was also asked in his press conference, is it possible that Terry McLaurin, steering into this is really just about the injury thing? Could he play against the Baltimore Ravens even just a little bit on Saturday? Dan Quinn said it would probably be hard to imagine getting him ramped up quick enough for that, because obviously Monday night to Saturday afternoon is not that much time. But he said not going to close the door on it, but it's probably just quote unquote a little quicker than we should. So don't expect to see Terry McLaurin playing in the preseason. Will we see him in practice next week? I can't tell you that right now, but obviously we'll all have our eyes open to see what comes from now to then. Dan Quinn did emphasize that the team connection is great. Players still love Terry McLaurin and that they have a quote unquote tight and connected team. And I think that that is certainly true. But if you heard Cliff Kingsbury's press conference on Friday, you probably picked up a little bit of what I picked up, which is that it doesn't sound like coach is too happy about his star receiver continuing to miss time. So that's the latest update on Terry McLaurin. We'll have more as it comes throughout the weekend and into the week, and of course, the end of the preseason as well. Coming up next, we're going to hear from safety Will Harris. But first, we're going to talk about the players that you won't see playing on Monday night. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Commanders is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, Locked On Commanders is playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Just last night, I was going through trying to make some trades, trying to swap some draft picks with some folks to get in a position to get some of the players that I want to. And if you watch these preseason games, you're scouting players, you're scouting other teams. Is Jaden Daniels going to be worth that early round flyer thinking about taking? Who's going to step up in the backfield? I'm excited to try one of their new features, a guillotine league that just dropped. Every week, the lowest scoring team gets eliminated and the last one standing wins. It adds a whole new level of intensity to the season. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days in August. They just dropped that Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League. And with the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together. So stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. This episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Have you ever wished that managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center where you can track all your accounts, investments, and your spending in one place. And that's huge this time of year. I know for me, getting ready for football season, the expenses can pile up faster than you realize. You're grabbing the new gear, you're getting your flights, you're getting your hotels, whatever it is. You might be a little surprised when you look up at your spending and how fast it all adds up. Well, Monarch Money helps you see exactly where your money is going so you can plan for those big game day expenses without getting blindsided. So do what I did. Take control of your finances. Use Monarch Money. And when you do, use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, LOCKEDON NFL, for half off your first year. While Terry McLaurin is one of several key veterans who will not be on the field Monday night, the game is going to provide a huge opportunity for other players. Per Coach Dan Quinn, the following players are being held out of Monday night's game, and it's not really a surprise. Pretty much the guys we know have been injured and banged up, and your older veterans, linebacker Bobby Wagner, linebacker Von Miller, tight end Zach Ertz, tackle Laremy Tunsil, guard Sam Cosmi, tackle Brandon Coleman, wide receiver Noah Brown, wide receiver Terry McLaurin, quarterback Marcus Mariota, linebacker Jordan McGee, defensive end Javonte Jean-Baptiste, and cornerback Jonathan Jones, all going to be held out of this game on Monday night. So some of these guys will not be making their preseason debut. Actually, for all of them, it would have been their preseason debuts, except for Jonathan Jones. Jones was in the Patriots game. Everybody else would have been their preseason debut. They will not be making them. I would be highly surprised if any of these players also played in the Baltimore Ravens game, probably get some practice reps, but other than that, you're not going to do that. So what are you going to see? You're going to see Josh Connerly Jr. in there at the first line, offensive line. Probably you're going to get Andrew Wiley at left tackle, Josh Connerly Jr. at right tackle. And as far as left guard, if Andrew Wiley is playing left tackle in place of Laremy Tunsil, probably going to see Chris Paul. We had a mailbag question just this last week about Chris Paul getting more first-team reps, and here you go. Chris Paul got some first-team reps in practice on Saturday, and I'm going to guess he's probably going to get some first-team practice reps on Monday. However, like I said, my assertion that Trent Scott officially would be the next guard up still stands, but probably want to get Trent Scott some tackle reps with the second team. So I think he's going to be probably held out until the second team offense comes in. Moving out to our conversation with Will Harris. While those players are out, he is going to he has caught the eye of Dan Quinn, I should say, and he's going to get his opportunity to do that even more on Monday night. Here's our discussion with new Commander safety, Will Harris.
All right, well, we talked a few times since you arrived, but first time having you on the show. Just kind of how are you embracing Washington, and have you found everything you kind of expected when you joined the Commanders?
Man, 100%. First of all, this is extremely blessed to be in this situation. Blessed to be a part of this organization, and it means a lot to me. It means the world to me that this team, this organization, put their trust in me. I don't take that lightly at all. I wear it with pride every day, and come in here and work my hardest, and do everything I can inside the building, out here on the grass, everything I can to be the best teammate that I can be. Be that guy who's dependable, on and off the field.
And a lot of people talk about culture. Some people think the culture gets talked about maybe too much in this business. But can you speak to the culture here that you found and really how impactful that can be for you?
Yeah, I mean here is it's hard to put into words, man. It's definitely a one-on-one. Me going into my 7th year in the league, I've experienced places, been kind of been around a little bit, but I've never experienced a culture, a building quite like this, and man, super blessed to be here, and everything that everyone in this building, the players, coaches, personnel, front office, everything that everyone here is about, is real. It's real, and you can feel that. Throughout the day, you can feel that on game day, man. Those are things that don't go away, man. It's a part of who we are, our identity, and it's a part of the culture here. So definitely blessed to be in this situation.
And then some other kind of cliches that get thrown around, like coaching matters, right? Obviously, who's coaching matters. But then people also say every defense run, quarters, cover 3, cover 2. But talk about kind of the nuances. Obviously, you don't want to give away scheme, but like just not even specific to Washington, but just like how nuanced can a coaching staff really impacts, everybody, quote unquote, playing the same thing?
Right. I mean, I think on defense, man, is mostly about identity and who you set out to be. And I think, that's one of the things that, that's impressive about being here is, guys holding each other accountable to the standard. Guys kind of leaning into that and holding themselves accountable to the standard. No one's above it. We all understand together. And that's the beautiful thing about it is that, we all brothers here. We all have that relationship with each other here to where, if I'm out there and I need a pick-me-up, we got guys who give me a pick-me-up and vice versa. I'm here to, support, everybody in this building. So when you got a culture like that, when you got an atmosphere like that, it's definitely, all working, cohesively for the same goal. It's a beautiful thing.
And we see you on the field, obviously playing some deep reps, but also being able to rotate down in the box. How important it is for you to bring that versatility? It's important to me, man, just because I like being all over the field. Whatever I pride myself on being able to do, whatever this team asks me to do, whatever my coaches ask me to do and need me to do, that's what I'm gonna do. Anywhere between those white lines, I'm ready to get active at any point. So, just coming in here, grinding every day, and try to keep the main thing, keep stacking days in here, keep working hard, and whatever I can do to benefit this team is what I'm going to do. And then playing next to Quan Martin, kind of just what has been your impression of the young safety, and how is he as a guy playing next to you in the backfield there?
Man, Quan is tremendously talented. Super talented kid, man. Ball skills, crazy. Natural tracker of the ball, physical, man, can come down, can do anything you need him to do, can cover. So being across from him, man, is definitely it's definitely been fun. And throughout OTAs and throughout the camp process, just getting that communication down with each other, getting that chemistry going with Quan, man, has been amazing. So, man, the sky is the limit for him, man. He's a great player. I'm blessed to be able to line up next to him, but that's my guy.
And for any Commanders fans that haven't had the chance to see you play on the field yet as a Commander, what should they expect when they see you?
High energy, dependable guy, competitive, physical. Those are some of the things that come off the top of my head. But I like to let the plan speak for itself. So I appreciate all the fans. I'm blessed to be a part of Washington Nation, man. So let's do it.
All right, that was safety Will Harris, who's clearly embracing his role in the group. Coach Quinn says he's, quote unquote, really proud of Will Harris because they're excellent standards that he brought really match up with the Washington Commanders and the way that he likes to compete. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Heading into Monday night, we are going to have another episode. We'll talk about on the young players, the roster spot battles that are going on. We'll talk about Jaden Daniels, what we want to see from him in his first action. And tell you right now, Dan Quinn did say probably, quote unquote, a few series for the starters, for Jaden Daniels and the starters. He also joked that you probably shouldn't take an extended popcorn break because you might miss the starters. So that doesn't tell you, 2, maybe 3 series at the most. I would be very surprised if you even get to 3, to be quite honest with you. So you're going to see your starters, but you're not going to see them for very long. But we'll break it all down. A little preview episode dropping Sunday night, and then Monday night after the game, we will be coming back to you again from Northwest Stadium. So come back for all of that stuff. In the meantime, if you've got questions or comments, you can text them directly to me by becoming a Locked On Commanders Insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders and join the ever-growing group of insiders who get to text me their thoughts, comments, opinions, send their questions, topics for conversations on later episodes, but also get plenty of information that goes beyond the show and access to the show like never before. Again, join subtext.com/LockedOnCommanders if you want to get in on all the fun. NFL fantasy draft season is here. So for your second listen, go to the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast and listen every day to prep your fantasy draft and become the most informed manager so you can take home your league's championship this season. I literally just got inspiration for a trade that I offered up in my fantasy league, trying to swap some draft picks from that show. So find Locked On Fantasy Football on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this podcast. To the everydayers, I see you every day. I appreciate you every day. And I thank you for coming through again today. Until next time, stay safe, be kind to one another. We'll see you again real soon right here on Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.